Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on making your business accessible. My name is Jackie Hicks and I will be your presenter. This webinar is part of the webinar series Sparrowly Group delivers under its Build Better Business program. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we all work today and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this session. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. We welcome you to revisit this webinar yourself and share it with your colleagues. So we don't have long, so let's get started. So you can focus, I'm just going to turn my video off. In this session, we will cover what does accessibility and accessible business mean? Why it's important and what's the opportunity for you as a business? What does the accessible customer need? We'll highlight some examples of businesses and organisations doing it well. And finally, what you can do to be accessible ready. Let's begin by defining what having an accessible business means. It's about ensuring businesses and the service they provide, infrastructure, public spaces, accommodation and transport modes are accessible for all, especially for people with disability. So what does accessibility mean? It's important to note that the correct reference to a person is to be with disability. And most importantly, a person with disability is not just those who are wheelchair users. In particular, people with hidden disabilities are those who are often overlooked. Look at these pictures here. You also can consider people with prams, seniors, support workers, those who are temporarily affected by disability. So for example, someone that has a broken hand. To be truly inclusive, this extends to people with food intolerances and people with language difficulties. Accessibility is broader than structural changes such as ramps and wider aisles. It encompasses a range of things from training your staff on how to accommodate the needs of all people, the font you choose for your website, how you arrange your product, and where you place your signage. So why is it important and what's the opportunity for you? The figure alone should be reason enough. $10.8 billion, and that's just the value of tourism. A study by Travelability found that the value of accessible tourism in 2018 was worth more than that of the inbound Chinese market of $10.4 billion. The study also found that in 2020, that value was forecasted to account for 25% of total tourism spend. And whilst we talk here about the value in terms of accessible tourism, it's important to note that businesses within the visitor economy need to be aware of their role. The term visitor economy refers to the production of goods and services for the consumption of visitors. Those that serve it directly being major tourism operators and those who are involved indirectly, such as retail and food production. Here I'm talking about cafes and restaurants, retail stores, and service providers such as hairdressers and beauticians. The knock-on effect of the tourism dollar is significant and businesses need to be aware of the value of being accessible for a wide range of customer segments. A report by Monash University identified that making your business more accessible has the potential to generate more revenue. Beyond businesses within the visitor economy, put simply, if your business isn't accessible for all, then you may be missing out on significant numbers of potential customers. But not only is it important from an economic lens. Under the Commonwealth Disability Discrimination Act of 1992, it is illegal to discriminate against people with disability by refusing access to or use of facilities or premises, failing to provide a means of entry, requiring a person to leave a premise or stop using facilities without reason, refusing to provide goods or services to a person with disability, or providing goods and services in a way that is not accessible. The social model for accessibility makes a distinction between impairments, that's the condition, illness, or lack of function, and the disability, being barriers and discrimination, which contrasts the medical model of disability. Within this context, the environment must change and adapt, to enable people living with impairments equal opportunity to participate in society. So what's the opportunity for you as a business? Beyond people with disabilities, improving your business within this sector will also greatly benefit the seniors market. The seniors market is an important contributor to the Australian economy, and operators need to be aware of accommodating for all customers. Seniors coming through now are more financially secure than previously by nature of their generation and are ready and wanting to spend. There's a very high level of loyalty to be gained from people with disability. This means they'll repeat their purchase to a business based upon their own experiences and recommend great examples and experiences of businesses doing it well to their peers. This is linked to the idea of place attachment and place identity, which is essentially where someone develops such a deep connection and attachment to a place and creates an emotional bond. The network of blogs, communities, and groups of people with disability and their families, support workers is enormous and far-reaching. This is a major opportunity for you as a business to find these groups and connect with them, learn from them, and adapt your business. But we need to think about what the accessible customer needs. It's important to think of accessible customers beyond their mobility and focus on their ability. There is an untapped opportunity for both those people with disability and for businesses. Whilst the current scope for the impact to the accessible market is already significant, if the accessible sector was serviced to fully meet their needs, it has the potential to be so much bigger. People with disability don't want to be treated any differently than any other customer without disability. That is, they want the same as every customer, exceptional customer service and experiences. In most cases, people with disability face a multitude of common barriers which make it difficult, less likely, or sometimes impossible to use and visit a business. Some of these include barriers to the physical environment, such as steps and narrow or congested spaces, barriers to information, with text difficult to read or information hard to understand. As well as this is information on publications which are only available in limited formats. For example, someone who is deaf, hard of hearing, or hearing impaired may not be able to follow along with a video clip if there are no captions. Also, barriers to communication, with operators providing limited options for people to contact them, a lack of awareness about how to communicate effectively. And finally, barriers as a result of discriminatory or negative attitudes. Accessibility awareness is getting more traction than ever before. And whilst this is a tremendous step forward, key to this is to ensure that plans are consistently implemented to ensure people with disability have continued access to improved services and experiences to enable the quality of life they deserve. From an accessible tourism perspective, whilst Australia has a long way to go, our research from our Sparrowly Group's discussion paper uncovered a number of destinations, events, experiences, and attractions that have had a positive impact on the customer experience for people with disability. We'll just look at 2 examples to inspire you. Firstly, there are a number of not-for-profit organisations across a number of industries which are accommodating and servicing the accessible industry through training, programs, consulting, reviews, and grants. These organisations aim to remove the stigma within society and the environment, addressing that social model of disability I talked about before. One of these includes Biometrics, who are specialists in technology for wheelchair users. The technology produces maps for cities or regions that includes information on footpaths, toilets and change facilities, and accessible car parking spaces. The maps indicate the degree of difficulty for mobilising throughout a region, as seen here for a regional city in Victoria, Greater Shepparton, a predominantly flat city. The technology Biometrics uses equips a wheelchair user with an app to measure and record the routes taken along footpaths to determine the surface type and conditions, as well as prepare a report on potential hazards, effort rating, and accessible buildings. The maps created are beneficial not only for local residents, including the elderly and parents with prams, and local businesses to be aware of and promote, but visitors to a region. The other example are the efforts where national parks across several states have introduced trail riders, creating access into most national parks. It allows the person with disability to ride anywhere that is marked out as a walking track. The single wheel of the trail rider can weave its way amongst the obstacles on a typical mountain track, whilst 1 to 2 people guide and push the trail rider. For more examples of those initiating change and positive experiences, be sure to look at the full discussion paper, which will be linked in the resources. Now, what can you do to be accessible readily? Firstly, a change in attitude from looking beyond the tick boxing exercise to be compliant to one that's truly customer-centric and commercially minded. We all need to recognise that the problem is that society puts up barriers for people with disability, and it's not the people with disability that are the barrier. In most cases, people with disabilities describe challenges or difficulties experienced by them as attitudinal barriers, which result from someone misunderstanding, confusing, or ignoring their needs. These misconceptions and attitudes are often the most significant barrier that a person with disability may face when seeking positive and equitable customer experiences. Whilst it's unreasonable to expect every staff member to deliver exceptional customer service experience in line with every type of disability, any effort or signs that a business has made to make their business more accessible to people with disability can go a long way. An ideal model would see universal design principles applied for all experiences, products, and services, appropriately meeting and adapting to the needs for all people, regardless of their abilities. Let's look at these 5 steps in building an accessible ecosystem, which my travel research have identified. Firstly, consulting is at the foundation of the market. It's important to engage with people with disability and their broader community, as well as staff, operators, and local government, at a starting point to determine exactly what is needed for people with disability. The second step is inspiring and educating with service providers and operators across industries and within the destination about the potential of untapping the sector. Depending on size and locale, this could also include working collaboratively with other operators, with council or tourism organisations. The third step is collating and bringing together service providers and peak bodies to provide and identify key areas of exploration and development. It's recommended that businesses start small and develop as you grow where necessary. It's important to understand exactly what you're trying to achieve and for who. Be honest in terms of what you offer and provide. The fourth step is a promotion to get the right message across to customers and people with disability. This includes ensuring that websites and social media are easy to read and use, and highlighting each service that's being offered. The final step is building new or renovating existing infrastructure. Engage with specialist access consultants, design providers, architects, or interior designers to incorporate universal design principles to optimize design efficiency. We'll look closely at the checklist, which has been developed to help you review the accessibility of your business and identify changes you can make to improve access for existing and new customers with disability. It's quite small here on the screen, and you will all receive a copy of the checklist amongst the resources. The self-assessment checklist should act as a guide, and we recommend using it in conjunction with gaining feedback from your customers to enable continual, small but impactful improvements. First, have a look at how accessible your business is in terms of the surroundings, signage, access, interior, amenities, and procedures. Some things you may want to consider. Are there any permanent or non-permanent infrastructure elements which may be blocking the footway? For example, A-frame boards at the front of your store. Are there any designated accessible parking spots close by? Are there clear and easy to read signage to identify your business from the street? If there are steps to enter your business, do they have a good surface in that they're non-slip and in good condition? Is there adequate lighting and contrasting step edges? Are walkways wide and clear? Is there clear space between furniture and stands for a person to maneuver around? Are the wall colours neutral with colour contrasting door frames and window trims? This is especially important for people who are visually impaired or colourblind. What amenities are available either in your business or close by? So this includes accessible bathroom facilities or change areas. Then look at your customer experience in terms of your staffing and delivery. Some things to think about. Are there feedback forms or alternative ways in which you're able to obtain feedback, whether it be in person, by phone, or email? Does your staff receive customer service training, including disability awareness? Are your staff available and prepared to service and attend to customer needs, which may include speaking clearly, writing information down, and interpreting gestures, expressions, and messages? Finally, look at how accessible your communications are. Here we're looking at marketing and communications. Thinking about your website. Is your information in clear language and easy to read? Do you provide all useful and accurate information about your business and facilities? If you do have accessible features in your building, do you provide images and proof points? Are there simple directions to your business? And does your website and social media accounts provide clear business information, your address, phone number, and opening hours? And finally, do you provide alternative ways to communicate with your customers visibly or audibly? Making sure your business is accessible friendly may seem daunting or sound expensive, and this shouldn't be the case. Here are some ideas of some things that you can take action with today in regards to your business. Have a look at your business and consider yourself in a person with disabilities position. Could they access your building or navigate their way around? What distractions are there in your building? Limiting noise and having adequate lighting is really important. Another important thing you can do is to have a look at your website and make sure your communication is clear and easy to understand. Something you can do today, even right now, is get educated. Speak to someone with disability and start learning. To recap, you'll receive the checklist that I went through on a couple of slides ago so that you can do a self-assessment on your business. This checklist will help you understand the areas where you're providing good access or areas that require access improvement. You can take those areas which require improvement and group them into the following areas. Those actions which you can take now for little or no cost. Those you can take in the medium term that don't require renovation to your building, but may include some costs. And there will also be long-term projects which will require significant investment into a redevelopment or renovation for improvements. In summary though, ignorance is not an excuse. To not pay attention to this important sector as a customer and make efforts towards accommodating their needs, you're not only doing a great disservice to people with disability, you're doing a great disservice to your business and missing out on a loyal customer base who, with the right care and attention, want to spend money with your business. So resources from this webinar include this video recording, presentation slides, the accessible tourism discussion paper that Sparrowly Group have prepared, and the checklist to understand how accessible your business is. So we're also here to help, so please reach out if you have any questions. So some questions have come through, which I'll now answer. Someone asks, what can I do if I have a physical space? So I have a cafe, which I do not own. Okay, so there are some things which are in your control, and our checklist would certainly help with this. So I'd have a look at that, go through your business and just understand those areas that you might need landlord permissions action anything. But speaking of landlords, that's a broader piece around how you can better work with them. There is money to be made by making your business accessible. So if landlords are presented with an attractive business case to cover the costs of any desired work or plans, they will be more likely to be on board with changes. Just another question. Where can a business start to understand how accessible their business is? So download the checklist resource and start looking at your business and experience there, but also talk to your customers and learn from them. Reach out to people with disability, the community support workers. That network is extensive. Be honest and just say you are wanting to improve your business and will be open to any feedback, to have someone maybe come out and have a look at your business and give you some feedback there. But also for yourself, it would be good to just do some education, and there are great resources and training programs available. At Sparrowly Group, we did a training through the William English Institute, but there are many others out there that would be a great starting point, including the SBS Inclusive Training Program. There's no other questions, so we'll just wrap up. Please feel free to get in touch if any other questions you may have via the email address on the screen. We're always here to help and happy to spend any time with you. Thank you so much for your time in joining us.